We say it says in the Megillah, or we say there's halacha chayiv inish lebesumi beparaya adla yada in order lebaruch marcha. A person has an obligation to drink and Purim and get shikker until he won't know the difference between order Haman and Baruch Mordechai. The HaRamabm writes this in Hilchos Purim. And the same halacha, the HaRamabm also writes a person has an obligation to send mishleach maris ishla re'eyu matanis la'avenu, to send foods to his friend. And then the HaRamabm also writes in a different halacha that a person has an obligation to give money to poor people on Purim. The question is, why didn't the HaRamabm bring all of these three things in one halacha? Also, like we said before, that there's an obligation to get chicken on Purim. The HaRamabm writes, a person, in Hilchos Yom Tov, a person needs to be happy on Yom Tov. He needs to be b'simcha, but not to get shikr. Because shikr is not a good thing, according to Torah. How can the HaRamabm say over here, in Hilchos Yom Tov, the HaRamabm says, you should not get shikr. So the question is, how could he? He says, Shashichrus eina simcha, ala hoilulus, v'sichulus. The lady needs to avinu ala hoilulus. What?
Yeah, it's a little too late. You should have spoken 10 to 15
A little
minutes
early,
ago.
yeah. So basically on Purim, how could you tell a person that you have an obligation to become a shikr? To be, it's not a Yiddish thing to have shikrus. Also, now basically to understand this, there's another question. We say in the Megillah that the Yidden accepted upon themselves the Kibbel HaYehudim as Asher Echelu Lasis. The Yidden accepted. The Gemara says in Masechet Shabbos that if the Eibishter is going to come and tell the Yidden, oh, you're not doing the Torah. You accepted the Torah by Matan Torah, so the Yidden are going to say that by Matan Torah we were forced. By Nusim Hayinu. But by Purim, the Yidden accepted willingly the Torah upon themselves. The Kibbel HaYehudim as Asher Echelu Lasis. They didn't accept it by putting what they started off by Matan Torah. Matan Torah was only the beginning. They only started it off, and by Purim they accepted what they started off by Matan Torah. So besides for this, and this on its own, it needs a lot of explanation. That by Matan Torah Yidden were on a very high state, and by Purim Yidden were on a very low state. We spoke about this a while ago, a few weeks ago. But why don't we see l'cha'oida in the mitzvahs of Purim that we should remember this idea that we keep isn't this a crazy thing? This is a huge thing. That by Purim we're higher than Matan Torah. And this, where do we see? Why aren't we mentioning this anywhere in Purim? When the argument there should be up is maybe through learning a Megillah over here for an hour. This is like, you're getting makabel the Torah more than Matan Torah. Actually sitting and learning. But where do we see one of the four mitzvahs should be about the Kibbel HaYehudim? This is like a crazy thing. So the Rebbe basically explains that the Lubavitcher Rebbe explains that why did the Yidden why was by putting the Kibbel HaYehudim as a Sherechel Alasis more than Matan Torah? What's the reason? Why by may I put him? What's the reason? And the answer is by Matan Torah. It says the Eibishter forced them. Hashem forced them to accept the Torah. The Jewish people didn't do anything on their own to accept the Torah, but by Purim, they didn't have Mesiras Nefesh. That is the Nukud. The Yidden gave up their soul. They were mafkir themselves. They were mafkir their seichel. They were mafkir their midas. They gave away their whole existence to the Eibishter. Haman made a gzeira to kill only the Jewish people. If the Jewish people would have converted, they wouldn't kill them. So the Jewish people, they didn't convert. They were Meiser Nefesh not to convert. And they were Makayim Torah and Mitzvahs, B'Mesiras Nefesh, HaRamabm, like Mordechai gathered the Yidden together, HaRamabm, in the streets to be Makayim Torah and Mitzvahs. Yidden for a full year were Meiser Nefesh. The HaRamabm writes in Hilchos Yesod that when a Navi gets Nevuah, his whole body, because the Eibishter is so great, and a person in this world is a limited person in a body, the person needs to, even a Navi, the Lashon of the HaRamabm is there's his spashtus agashmis, his whole body, he shakes, he has to be dreaming, he falls on the floor, his body, he can't be sitting there like a regular person. Only Moshe Rabbeinu was the only prophet that was able to stand like a regular person and accept an avur. But everyone else, when the Eibishter came and gave an avur to a Navi, the Navi lost his seichel, he lost his mind. It says, when it says by Navim, it says, Madua bo ha-meshuga hazeh. Why did this meshuga come? When it speaks about the prophets. Because a Navi doesn't have seichel and midas when he gets an avur. So too, that's the idea of Nevuah. It says so to in Hilchis Tefillah by davening, that Chasidim are Rishonim when they were davening, they would reach to such a level of Ispashtus Agashmis. They would reach such a state by davening. They would daven with such kavanah to the Eibishter that they came to a state that they didn't even feel the Gashmis of this world. They were like the Nevi'im. That it says in Shulchan Aruch, Kodev l'maylas hanavur. They're almost like Nevi'im. Which this is the idea of Mesiras Nefesh, that a Jew gives up his whole mitzvahs to the Eibishter. And that is why on Purim you have this chiyuv of Ad Lo Yada. We say in the Megillah that Vayomim Va'elan Iskarim Anasim, and the Baal Shem Tov says that every single year, the whole Shana V'Shana, and not only on Purim but every Yom Tov, when it comes to the time of that Yom Tov in the year, when we remember what happened the first time, and through this Vanasim, the same exact thing re-happens again. And right now, whatever light of Hashem was revealed in the times of Purim, and what we're talking about over here is that the Jewish people accepted what they started off by Matan Torah, through them giving over their whole mitzvahs, giving over their whole existence, their whole being to Hashem. They totally nullified their whole existence to the Eibishter, their Meiser Nefesh. Through this revealed a very, very high light of Hashem, which was even higher than Matan Torah. That's why then they were Mekabel what they started off with Matan Torah. Every year, the same exact thing is Nimshach. You have this great Gevaldik light of Hashem that's coming down, and we need to accept it the same way then with a Mitzad Yidin of Mesiras Nefesh, just like a Navi. He loses his Seichel, his Midas, his everything. That's the idea of Purim, of Ad Lo Yada. That's why there's a Chiv to be a Shikr, which means there's a Chiv to leave your Seichel, to leave your Midas. This is the idea of Simcha of Purim. That's why, where do we see the Kibbul HaYehudim? What's the Kibbul HaYehudim? The idea of Mesiras Nefesh, and that is Ad Lo Yada. That's where you see the Kibbul HaYehudim. That you reach to a level that you don't understand. You put away your mind and heart aside, and you're serving the Eibishter for the Eibishter himself. And this is the idea of all the mitzvahs of Purim. When someone is Mesimcha, even a guy is a very stingy guy, he doesn't give a cent to anyone. But he's very, very happy, and he puts his seichel, his mind and heart on the side, he starts thinking about other people. And that's why Purim, when we have this Mesiras Nefesh, we have just devotion to Hashem. And that's this idea of Simcha. Therefore, there's this idea of making a meal to be happy, but also to give other people food. You're thinking about someone else because of the Simcha. And because of the Simcha, you're not only thinking about someone else that's your friend, but even Mataris Lev Yoin, even someone that you don't know, and call a Paishit Yad Meisnimli. That's the idea of giving money to poor people. It's not mitzad tzedakah. The Mepharshim clearly say it's the idea of to give. Even if the guy's a rich guy, he says give it, you give everyone. That's the idea of just to give, to think about someone else. It all comes of the Simcha of Purim Ad Lo Yada. I mentioned about Mashiach, and there's a Hilchis, he made a sim on Maseches Megila. The end of Maseches Megila is, like he said, that a person needs to be doirish Hilchis HaRegel Beregel, to learn the halachis of the Yom Tiv in that Yom Tiv. So now, it's the Hashgacha Pratis. This is also part of the Milsa de B'dechusa. I'd like to invite you to a huge Siyum HaRamabm of Beis Mordechai. We're making a Siyum HaRamabm. Tomorrow night, the thousands of people around the whole world are going to be finished learning, I think, the 43rd cycle, 44th cycle of learning the whole Rambam. And this is connected, actually, what the Rambam says in the last halacha, is connected to what we just said over here. It says in the Sefer B'chinas Olam, Tachlis HaYediyah Shaloi Nedo'acha. What is the highest level of someone understanding the Eibishter is that he understands that he cannot understand the Eibishter. Like they asked the God over Yisrael, what's your kavanah when you daven? What are you thinking? So he said, Ani misbalel l'da'azah tinik. When I daven, I want to daven like a little baby. That's my kavanah when I daven. Because a baby, when he davens to the Hashem himself. He doesn't know all these levels of chesed and gvur and seder ishtalshalus and higher spiritual worlds. He speaks to Hashem himself. The little kid doesn't know anything. So the God will be Yisrael that knows a whole bunch of stuff. So let's say he knows one level of Hashem. And then he realizes this is not Hashem himself. So he has to say, that's not Hashem. And then he tries to go deeper and deeper to understand what's the Eibishter, until he realizes, when he comes to the highest level of someone understanding Hashem, is that he knows that he cannot understand. That's what we're saying over here. The highest, the whole chiv of Purim is Ad lo yadat. It'll come to a level that you don't understand, that you don't know anything, you don't know that you can't understand the Eibishter. And this is how the HaRamabm ends off the last halacha of the whole HaRamabm. After the HaRamabm is saying the whole 613 mitzvahs, when he gets to the end of the HaRamabm, and in the end where the HaRamabm speaks about the peak of the whole Yiddishkeit, is that Mashiach is going to come and we're going to be able to do all 613 mitzvahs. In the end of all of that, the HaRamabm says, so then in that time there's going to be no hunger, no war, no jealousy, no competition. There's going to be many goods, and all the pleasures, all the madarim will be found like dust. Then the HaRamabm continues. This is all introduction. The whole occupation of the whole entire world, even goyim, is going to be only to know Hashem. That's what everyone's going to be busy with, to know the Eibishter. Therefore, Yidden are going to be very smart geniuses, more than the goyim. And we're going to know things that usually we cannot know in the time of God. It's like the HaRamabm writes in the beginning that we cannot understand the Eibishter. So when the Gula is going to come, we're going to know even things that we cannot understand. We're going to grasp Hashem as much as a person could grasp. And then he brings the pasuk, the world is going to be filled with the knowledge of the Eibishter, just like when you look at the ocean. You don't see nothing besides for the water. So too, when you're going to look around anywhere in the world, when Mashiach comes, you're not going to see people being into business, money, into all the junk that they're into. You're going to see the whole world is into one thing, just to know the Eibishter. Kamayim layom achasim. Now, Kamayim layom achasim, water covers over a person that's inside the water. When someone's inside the water doesn't come inside of him. He cannot grasp. He doesn't. That's not internalized with him. It's above his understanding. So the HaRamabm ends off over here. Even though in the Geula we're going to know things that we don't know at the time of Galus usually, and we're going to understand the Eibishter, so someone can think, okay, so Mashiach's going to come, so you're going to sit like this, and you're going to know all this, see the Eibishter. So the HaRamabm ends off the highest peak, the highest level, even in your Mesa Mashiach. It's going to be Kamayim Layam Achasim. It's going to be Loine Do'achad. There's going to be the Adam Lo Yada. There's always going to be a level. The Eibishter is bleak, full, unlimited. There's always going to be a level that we're going to need to be mavatal ourselves. When something's covering over you, the HaRamabm says in the end of Hilchas Mikvois, what's the idea of a mikveh? So besides for the physical, a mikveh is for someone to know that he's a tibul is oisius bittul. Someone goes inside the water and he's tovel in the water. He's mavatal himself. The water covers over him. That the HaRamabm says this is symbolizing on Mei Hadas HaTorah. This is going on the holy understandings. This is going on the Eibishter on Torah. When a person throws himself into Torah, throws himself into knowing Hashem, and that's the highest level. So this is the simcha of Purim, that now in this time we have this very high revelation of Ad Lo Yada, and we should take the opportunity of Purim to be Moiser Nefesh. That's the Mekiva Layehudim, to throw ourselves, put ourselves aside to learn Torah, Mekiva Layehudim, and also like the Minchas Elazar, the Munkach writes in his letters, he gets Shvirin. He says that there's a chiv of Mesidus Nefesh, of Yarik Val Yavoid, is an Avodah Zorah, Gilei Arois, and Shvichas Domim. So the Minchas Elazar says, I'm Moisif. You say when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Echad is what you have to be having a kavod of Mesidus Nefesh. When is the Eibishter going to be Echad? When are you going to see? When is the whole world going to serve the Eibishter? There's only going to be one. Hoy Hashem Elokeinu Chol Haaretz, and the Rashi says it. Rashi learns Pshuta Shel Mikra. Hashem, that's our Hashem now. He's going to be Echad in the future. First of we learn, we say Shema. We have in mind the Eibishter is Echad now, but Rashi says, when is the Eibishter going to be Echad, the only one? The whole world is going to serve only one Eibishter. That's in the future, HaRamabm, like it says in Svanya, then you're going to transform and change. Epic, we're going to turn over all the nations of the world, like all you're going to call out in Hashem's name. So he says you need to be Moiser Nefesh also to make this happen. You have to be Moiser Nefesh also to bring Mashiach, so everyone should do whatever he can. This meant in the previous generations, you had big tzaddikim, you had the Chosem of Lublin. He was Moiser Nefesh, the Eliyahu Novi told him, don't try, it's not the time yet. And he said, I don't care, I'm going to jump, I'm going to even push, I'm going to force Hashem, and then at the end he ended up dying. He was Moiser Nefesh Kipshutoy. So too of Yosef Del Arayna, there's all these stories of Doyle Yisrael that are literally Moiser Nefesh. Now we don't need to do that, we don't need this type of Mesiras Nefesh. Just have to be Moiser and Limud Torah and keep our mitzvahs behidur. And I'm going to take this time to advertise the daily shir. We give over here 1:30 lunch and learn. And we learn about these Inyanim of Tzipis Yeshua. And we shall have a Freilich on Purim. And we want Mashiach now.
We want Mashiach now.
Simon, Arle, sing ça, merci.